All right, cool. I'm just going to run you through what we're going to do today.
Okay.
So today we're going to do some cold and dark. Cold and dark. Um, I've got a flight plan for us to follow, which I'm going to give that to you very briefly. And we're going to take off. So we're going to take off from one airport, land at the other. So today you'll be doing your first flight fully. I'm going to send you something. I want to see, have a little read through that and see if you understand any of that. Just on the first page. Don't worry about any other second page. Just on the first page. Have a little read through that and see if you understand that.
Yeah, no idea.
Okay.
Well,
That's
I
fine.
guess this is the departure and arrival,
Yeah.
but this is this the weather? Whiskey X-ray.
Where are you? Okay, so where are we? So I wouldn't worry about that.
Okay.
Okay. I wouldn't worry about anything at the top at the moment. But let me run through that with you really quick. Okay, so do you know what a flight plan is? What it
Not
is
really.
exactly? Okay, so a flight plan is essentially a plan for your flight. It says it in the name. So if you fly in the real world, you will get something similar to this. Similar. I'm not saying the same. You will get somewhat similar. And what it will tell you is the flight, it will tell you the fuel to take on your flight based on the details that we put in. So to put a flight plan, we use a website called Simbrief. And Simbrief is, I recommend when later on tonight to
Mm-hmm.
make an account on Simbrief, or you can do it now. And what Simbrief is essentially a flight planner, a flight logger. So create an account really quick, and I will tell you how Simbrief briefly works. So if you create an account really quick, I will. So if you create an account, just really quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you create a flight plan. Okay, so this looks a bit complicated, but it actually isn't. This is actually quite easy. Okay, so first let's go through the flight info. Okay, so what you're essentially doing on SimBrief is creating a flight plan from A to B. So from wherever airport that you might be in, and you're going to the next one. You basically then input those details, and you're gonna put. It's gonna give you a route that you will then input. This route will then go um, into your FMC, so your flight management computer. Without this route, we don't know where we're going. Essentially, we would have
Mm.
to fly by eye. Okay, so the departure airport is going to be CYYZ. So it's always going to be your departure, so it's always in code. And your next one, your arrival is going to be Kilo Bravo Oscar Sierra. So Boston, right? Then it's going to give you an automatic um, alternative. Okay. Now I always leave that, but that's based on the weather. It will tell you the closest to the airport. So in case of an emergency or in case you can't land at Boston, it's giving you New York, for example, um, as an alternative airport. So airline. Let's go look at airline really quickly. So airline. Every airline has a code, and it's usually in 3-letter word.
Okay.
Every airline, every airline. So, for example, American Airlines is AAL. So if you put AAL, that's American Airlines, and then we put a flight number, so we can figure out a 4-digit number. So 1229. So that's the first bit done. We don't need a departure because that runs on Zulu. We don't need the date. because we can depart anytime. So that's completely irrelevant. The aircraft, we click on the aircraft and then we choose our aircraft for today's flight is going to be the 737-800. So we look for the 737. It's all organized in, no, you missed it. So all the way back. So it's there we go. Right. Now we'll automatically it's going to start sorting out our fuel and everything. It's going to sort out um, um, it's going to sort out our fuel. Not only that, it's going to sort out our route. And not only that, it's giving us an automatic. Um, Obviously, at the moment, you're outdated, which is fine. Let
Oh,
me
because
show
I
you.
need to pay.
Yeah, let me show you my screen because your one is outdated.
Okay.
Okay, let me just right. So can you see this?
Um. Yep.
So So the current IRAC, remember I was telling you about the IRAC, that needs to be updated. You're on 19.0 thingy, which is from 1909, which is back September. So that's quite right. So
Is it expensive?
Navigraph, you will essentially need it. You will need it eventually. If you fly on VATSIM, if you want to fly on VATSIM, it's 10. I think it's 8 euros or 9 euros a month. But you get a bunch of stuff. So you get updated IRAC, you get charts, which you're going to need. But I will tell you about the charts and how to use them. So don't buy it yet. Don't do a subscription if you're thinking
Okay.
about it. Right. So the time scheduled en route is going to give you, so based on what you put here and here, it's going to give you roughly 1 hour and 35 minutes. But we still haven't put a departure runway. We still haven't put an arrival runway. So it's given us, I think the first one was 15 left. Okay. And that's based on the winds that it took. So it's taking it based on the winds. So don't worry about this. Just worry about that aircraft. Don't worry about this either, and worry about this optional accessory. So saying at the moment, based on our current situation and the winds, that it's going to be about roughly about 1 hour and 35 minutes. And if we change it to runway 6 left, it's going to say, do you wish to automatically select SIDs and stars for this runway? That means that there's a SID and there's a star for every runway and based on every departure. So for that departure, you might have a different SID. And we'll go through a SID and a star in just a second. So we click yes because that might change. The arrival runway will stick with whatever it's given us because that's based on the winds. The taxi out and taxi in, that's just roughly given us based on the time that we're here. But we don't worry about the taxi in and that. Extra fuel, we leave that as default. I usually take about 1,000 of fuel, but that depends on how far and which airport you're going. Now, the altitude is on automatic. Now, this one is a big one because it will give you an altitude, an automatic one. Now, you can go down lower on your altitude if you wish. At the moment, I think it's giving us 350 once we generate the flight plan. So just leave that as auto, how it is. But however, you can put that in manual. So if you wish to fly a 310, just highlight and put 310. Now, 310 means 31,000 feet. If you want to fly at 29,000 feet, you put 290. If you want to fly at 27, it's 270, and
Okay.
etc. So you keep going. But at the moment, just rub it off, and it's just going to keep us as that. Passengers, I always put it as auto. However, you can take how many you wish to take. Depends on you. Cargo as well. You can take up to the cargo that you wish to take. However, I leave auto, and the zero fuel weight are also leave that on auto. So captain is going to give you the name, your name, and it's going to give you a pilot ID. Don't worry about that. It's completely useless. Now, the other thing that we need to worry about is the route. Okay, now the route. This is very important because this route, and this is where we're going to talk about a SID and a star. This route is what you're going to input into your flight plan, into your FMC. So at the moment, it's giving us man van. So these are waypoints, okay? So these are waypoints. You're going from a waypoint. And how do we see the route? Well, we look down here, and you can see that we depart from here, from Toronto, and we go um, down these waypoints, and that's just based on here. So our route starts at Avon because this one is a SID. So this one's a SID. So do you know what a SID stands for?
No, I guess the D is departure.
Huh?
The D is departure. Or not? No, I don't know.
What do you mean in departure?
Well, the SAD, SID.
Yeah, so we don't say SID because I should say we call it a SID. A SID. And what is a SID? It stands for Standard Instrument Departure. Now, what is a SID? Do you know exactly what SID does to
No,
you,
no,
roughly?
no.
Okay, so look at my screen. So a SID is, so you will have an airport, right? So this is your air. Oh shit. So this is your airport, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say, for example, uh, so this is going to be your airport, okay? So down here. So imagine this is your airport, okay? Then a SID, imagine that you're a car, okay? So this is from your house. So this is your house. So let's just put for house. I can't type. So this is your house, and this is you in your car, okay? So a SID, what it does is imagine you're in a car and you're going down a road, okay? And you have loads of turnoffs. So on one road, this might take you, let's put it towards countries, okay? So on this road, you might go to Portugal. This road, you might go to France. This road, you might go to Germany. And this road, you might go to Finland. And this road, you might, I don't know, you might go to Italy at the moment there. But anyway, so you got all these different roads. And what it is essentially you're coming in with a car and you're following, you've driven before, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So you're basically following this road and then you're choosing where you want to go. So it's basically every destination to where you're going, whether it's on the same route or whatever, it's basically it's a departure where you're going to go and you're going to follow rules to where you want to go. So say for example, you want to go to France. So you get from your house and you go down here and then you do and you follow these roads. So imagine you're on a highway, okay? So the best way to imagine this, you imagine you're on a highway and you're going and you're following specific rules for that. So at this waypoint, so at this bit, it might tell you to go at 30 miles an hour or 30 kilometers an hour. But here, it might tell you to go at 50. And then here, it might tell you to go back down to, I don't know, it might tell you to go at 50, remain at 50. Now imagine that car can fly, okay? Let's imagine that car can fly and let's keep it with a 50 kilometers. So at this point, it might tell you to climb and maintain 5,000 feet. And then at this waypoint, it might tell you at 10,000 feet. And then at this waypoint, it might tell you to stick at 15,000, just as an example. It won't be 1,000, but it just might be 50,000. So what you then have is you're following this route, and it might not be, okay? Let's just, it might not be, it might not be straight, okay? So it might not be straight. What it might be is you say, for example, you might take off from your house and then it might tell you to go round here, and then back again. Or it might tell you from your house, it might just tell you to go straight. But then there's a waypoint. Now, this is a good example as of yesterday. Remember yesterday we took off, but our magenta line was pink, but there was nothing here.
Hmm.
There was nothing. There was like nothing here.
Yeah.
There was no line down here. It was just so what it was giving us at the airport. So for Toronto, for example, what it'll tell you. So at Toronto, what it'll do roughly when you take off from runway 06 left, it'll actually give you a line like this on your FMC, which will go through, and then it'll actually tell you to go down here to your destination. All right. So what is this? Why is there nothing here? That's pretty simple. What it is you're basically taking off, and then this bit here, this missing, this missing. So let's put a box here. This missing here is called the vectors. And what is a vector? Do you know what a vector is?
No.
I can't really fucking type really because this is awful. What is a vector? So that comes down to ATC. This is where you'll have ATC to tell you what to do. So at every airport, mostly, they will tell you that there will be restrictions on what you can and what you can't do. And this is where you're going to need Navigraph. Because without Navigraph, what a lot of people do, and the reason I'm telling you this is because it's a very good thing. Now, what a lot of people do on VATSIM, for example, and you shouldn't do, but what a lot of people do is that they will take off, right? And they will get to this bit, and what will happen is that they will drag this waypoint onto here so it connects, so you no longer have that, right? And so the aircraft will go here and it will start maneuvering down here. And that's wrong. You can't do that because you're being vectored. And what is being vectored is ATC telling you when to do that turn. So it might not be, so he might tell you not to go down here. So you might, so the minimum climb altitude is 5,000. What? Let's start with the 5,000 altitude because I'm going to go back to this. So you might want to take notes. Right. So 5,000 is the minimum climb altitude. Okay. So this is the
What,
minimum
in
climb
at
altitude.
every airport?
Not every airport. So for CYYZ, let's start with CYYZ. The reason I came here is because this is quite a good airport to learn. CYYZ is the airport that we're at. So this is the 5,000. And it's called the minimum climb altitude. So what is the minimum climb altitude? It is basically you climb to that altitude, so 5,000, right? So you climb to that altitude, which is 5,000, and you don't go above it unless ATC tells you to. So that is when you take off, you'll inform ATC, which we'll get through when we go to thingy a later time. I'm just telling you this so you get the idea when you put it into your flight plan, because what we'll do is you'll see what I'm talking about is when we put it into the FMC, is we'll take off and there will be a line straight, but there will be no line here. And what a lot of people think is that this is an error in the FMC. And what we'll do, like I said, is they'll connect it together. And then you'll go up here and climb and go here because they're not reading their charts properly. And this is where you're going to need charts because you need to find out, first of all, if there is, you're inputting into your FMC, right? If you're inputting into your FMC and there is a line here, if you didn't know about this, what would you do straight away? You try and connect these two correct, like straight away, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because you'd think there is, so your aircraft would take off and it would land and obviously it would go that way, right? If you didn't know about this, right? But there is a difference for this because it's called the vector. So the vector is when ATC is guiding you. Okay, so he will tell you. So ATC might tell you. So minimum climb altitude is 5,000. So we don't go above that unless ATC informs us that we can go about 5,000. So usually when you take off, right, you will then inform, which will go on to a later time as well. You will then tell ATC, so or Tower or whoever's on, you will tell them, so Tower Canadian 1229 or American Airlines 1229 05 0 I don't know 01000, which is the current altitude that you're at, for pass for 5000, because that's the minimum climb altitude that you can go. Now, what is the vectors? Let's start this off. What is the vectors?
Is it a heading?
Nope. What do we talk about? What is the vectors? Because I'm going to put you to the test now, because I want you to get involved. I did enough talking yesterday, and that was just to teach you. Today, it's going to be about you talk. So, what is the vectors?
Is it not a direction?
It is. Who's yes, is a direction, but by who?
By ATC?
Correct. And why do you think they will give you a direction when to turn? So why do you think that when you get up to this point, right, or when you're climbing, they might give you a vectors onto this one? Why do you think? Why do you think they might give you a vectors for that specific airport?
Well, I guess
Why not
if you go too far, then you have to go with a different heading. You have to go more to the left, right, to catch up with the first waypoint. Whereas if you,
no, not specific. He can turn you just before 5000 though. He
yeah,
can
well,
turn you.
if the turn is before 5,000, then you need to do a smaller turn.
No, incorrect. Okay, so he might give you. You're close-ish. So ATC might be nice, and he might put you onto there, and then why not turn you here? Why turn you here? Or why turn here? Or why turn there? Why get to 5000? Is there? I mean, because you said bigger turn. So why not turn here instead of, I don't know,
Well,
here or
maybe
here
there's
or
traffic,
here?
huh?
Exactly. There might be traffic. It could be down to buildings. It could be down to anything. Health and safety. Might be separation from the aircraft. So you might get vectors on here, but there might be an aircraft here. There might be, right? So ATC will tell you, keep climbing to flight level 7,000. So what happens? What do you think? So what is the minimum altitude for CYYZ?
5,000.
So for Toronto, 5,000, right? So this is a question. What do you do if you can't get in touch with the ATC, but your minimum altitude is 5,000? What do you do?
Well, I guess you stay at 5,000 and you go straight.
Well done. Well done. So you remain at 5,000. You don't go any further, because what a lot of people do again is that they don't hear ATC. So yeah, I'm just going to keep on climbing, and you'll get told off for that. Actually, some ATC controllers will tell you off for that. So they'll keep. So if you're climbing and it's hell of a busy, right? You're not going to climb. You're going to keep climbing to 5,000, but you're going to remain at 5,000. Climb, usually on the thingy, it'll tell you climb, maintain 5,000. Now look at this, what I just wrote down, and now look at this. So this is Navigraph. This is Navigraph. So this is Navigraph, and this is where you're going to get your charts. And this is what I'm going to tell you how you're going to get this information. All right. So this is a great little program because it'll tell you where you are. And you might see these little things and it might look complicated, and it is, because I don't know all of it. So these little lines here, they're called airways.
Okay.
So every airplane, when you fly, you will fly on an airway to a waypoint. Airway to a
So
waypoint.
does a
Airway
SID
to a
join an airway?
So a SID is basically you're taking off and you're following a bunch of instructions on how to get to that place, to your first waypoint. So let's look at CYYZ, for example, and I will tell you. So let's look at a SID, yeah, a SID. And then there's loads of SIDs because there's going to be loads of directions, there's going to be loads of instructions. It might be a SID that only applies to jet airliners. It might be a SID that only applies for VFR flight, IFR flight. Do you know what the difference between IFR and VFR?
Is it visual and instrument?
Right. Awesome. Yeah. So IFR is instrument flight rules. VFR is visual flight rules. So VFR is visually. IFR is in
Instrument.
instruments. Okay. So we put our SID and we look at our SID here, and we look for what was our departure here again. This is where you're going to need your flight plan that I gave you, remember?
Mm-hmm.
So let's go back to your flight plan and let's look here. Page 2, and look here. Route ID. So what's that telling you? So that's the departure airport, CYYZ, correct?
Yeah.
That's the runway that we're taking off, 6 left. And then it's giving us a Kepler 2. Kepler 2.
So that's the SID.
That is the SID. So we look at Navigraph, and we look at Kepler 2. And remember what I said here. Look at this. So airport, takeoff 5,000, and then there's nothing here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So look at this. This is how it's going to look. So Kepler 2, and then it's going to give us a bunch of runways. So Kepler 2 departure for runway 05, 06 left,
Oh
06 right,
yes.
23. Kepler 2 for only runways 15.
Oh
So
no no no.
we look for we look this one, right? Now look at this. Right? Let's look at from a different angle. So let's imagine we're taking off from. I'm trying to turn it in an angle. Right. So look at that. A second. So just look at that and look at this. Something like the same.
Ah, so it's not connected, right?
Yeah, it's not connected, and we then find out why it's not connected. So we look at it in the right way. So this way. So
So which one is runway
this
06?
06 will be this one.
Ah.
I believe actually runway 06 will be on a heading.
057. Aha,
So
it's
it will actually be there. So we take off from there and then there. And does that look something similar to there?
yeah, for sure.
Of course it does. So we then find out why we haven't got anything straight. Why is it not like, I don't know. I think most of it is but why is it not like this? So you might notice a difference. J fund. So look at this one. So look at this one. This one's connected. See?
Hmm.
This one is all connected. So this one, it's basically what it's telling you. It's a bunch of waypoints that you have to, a bunch of instruction that you're following, and it looks hella complicated. And you're wondering, you're zooming in and you're going, oh my God, which one's mine? It doesn't say numbers. and that's fine, because this is what we do. So we look at a SID, we look at a Kepler 2 for our runway, remember? And it's going to tell us, and then we're figuring out what is our current, what we need to do here. And that's fine, because this is information is going to tell us. So where? So we look down here and look, unless otherwise assigned by ATC, maintain 5,000. So you're climbing and you're maintaining 5,000. So 06 left, which is the one we're departing from, unless otherwise assigned by ATC, climb on the heading of 057, which we talked about headings yesterday, remember?
Yeah.
and we climb into 1,000 feet, and then continue climb 057, or as assigned by ATC usually, and expect radar vectors to mobile or as assigned. Now, mobile is a waypoint. So you climb into 1,000, which is the way 1,000 there, and then you continue on the heading of 057, and then you inform ATC that you're climbing to 5,000. He's then going to look, and when it's the right time to turn you, he might turn you to mobile. And then what happens at mobile? You get to that waypoint, and then you follow on a heading of 051, correct?
Mm-hmm.
All the way to the next waypoint, which is Rakem. And now look at your look. Let's look at our flight plan. So mobile, correct? So this is our whole SID. So mobile is going to take us to mobile. Rakem,
Yeah.
correct? To Kepta, which is the whole SID. And then it's going to give us a transition point. Now, transition point is basically when you transition from um, SID to waypoint. So bumper transition. Now, not all departures are going to have a transition, but most of them.
Um,
So
how do you know at which altitude you need to be at Ricam and Kepta?
Rickham,
Yeah.
usually, okay, you don't.
Uh-huh.
You basically, what you do is you climb. So you climb to 5,000, and then ATC might tell you to climb, I don't know, 8,000. It might. Okay. So you climb to 8,000. But you don't go over 8,000 because ATC hasn't informed you. But in this case, okay, because we are departing with no ATC, so what we do is we come to 1,000, come to 5,000, and then we turn on the right heading, 151 to mobile, and then we input straight into climb and altitude. So there's no speed, there's no altitude restrictions. So you continue climb unless assigned by ATC, or unless there is a waypoint telling you to maintain. So look at this one. So let's look, for example, that our transition point was Wazzy. So we climb that, we go to Saver, go to Sekit, Rakem, and then we come down here and look at here. It says Wazzy 9,000, and then it has there's a little reason that line is on top. Why do you think that line is on top?
Do we have to stay below?
Yeah. So it will be at 9,000, either remain at 9,000 or below 9,000. Now, if that line is underneath, it will
It's
be
above
9,000 or
or
above.
above.
So, what is a SID? Explain to me what is a SID. First of all, what is the full name? What is a SID?
So a SID stands for Standard Instrument Departure.
Yep.
It allows the plane to connect to the waypoints,
Right.
and you have different SIDs depending of where you want to go, and depending of the runways.
Correct. So you're basically, it's a bunch of it's a bunch. It's, put it this way, it's a departing procedure. So it's procedure. So
Mm.
again, we go into this point. So you're departing, and the car, imagine you're in a car and you want to go to different positions, and you're at a roundabout. Right? So this is the roundabout. In order to go to different directions, you need to follow specific rules, specific you might want to follow specific altitudes. You might want to specific speeds. So for this
So
one,
it's basically roads in the sky.
yes. So it's basically roads in the sky. So you're basically following a procedure to get you to the next waypoint safely. it's a procedure essentially. It's a procedure that you're going from one point to another, but you might be into different altitudes. So at Wazzy, what altitude do we need to be at?
Underneath 9,000.
9,000 or below.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's look at this one. So, okay, so okay, so let's have okay, so from Boston, this is Boston. Okay, so I've zoomed out enough. From Boston, from runway 15 right, what is the instructions there? What do I need to do for that departure?
15.
For
So
15
15 is down left,
So tell
right?
me all the procedures for 15 right. What do I need to do to get to this waypoint, Pats?
Is it
What do
first?
I need to do?
Is it first to Fox?
Yep,
Okay, so Fox, and then well, you follow bro,
yep.
like, and then how do you know if it's true DH or JT?
What do you mean?
Well, there's two waypoints close to one another on the right. Yeah,
Here?
these two. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So this one is. Ooh, that's quite a good
Oh,
one.
it's JT. It's JT.
It's JT.
Yeah,
JT. So
JT have more. Yeah.
what heading do I need to be at for departure from 15 right?
Well, heading 150.
And what's my minimum climb altitude?
Uh,
How do we find that information?
so in the box top right, it says top altitude 5,000.
Well done.
Yeah.
And so we climb on a what heading?
150.
And then what?
131.
To where?
Ah, it says to Fox, do not exceed 210 knots.
There you go. So that's 210 knots. Now, do you know about the 250 knots below 10,000 feet?
No,
Okay, so below 10,000 feet, you can't go over 250 knots.
already.
Yeah, that's just rules.
But
FAA rules.
but this is you put it in the toga, right?
You put it in the toga, yeah. It basically works out for you, but you don't put it into the toga, you put it into the flight management computer, and I'll tell you how to put it in. But you can't go over 250 knots below 10,000 feet. So it's 250 or below.
Okay.
Okay. So that is it. And what speed do I need to be at Barro?
That's maximum 250 knots.
Well done.
Yeah.
And what speed do I need to be? So does that mean max 250? So can I go what at 240 or two or can I go at 210 or what?
I guess. Yeah.
Of course you can. Because it's saying that's the max
Yeah, yeah.
altitude. And you can actually get loads of information from here. So if you look further, you can actually get the speed restriction up here. So at or below 250 with Barro. And what speed do I need to be at Humo here?
At or below 290 knots.
Well done.
Yeah.
So this is going to make you easier to understand what a star is. A star.
I said. Oh no, a star.
Hang on. Think. Yeah. So a star is a standard terminal arrival. So a star works similar to a SID, but the other way reversed. So this time we're doing it in arrival. So in our flight plan, where do we find our arrival? So in here, in our route, where do we find our arrival?
I guess that's the one before Boston, so G Fun 2.
Well done. So J Fund 2. And that's probably going to be, always think of that. So it's going to be punked. So that's going to be a transition point. That's going to be the transition point that you're going to go into fund. So you're going to go punked and then J Fund. So how do we find that? That's fine. So again, we look at a star this time. We look at J Fund. And look, this one's good. So how do we find out what runway are we landing at Boston? What we got programmed? What we gonna have programmed for Boston?
Oh, I forgot. Can you show again?
Have a look in your flight plan on the routing ID. Have a look on your screen, the one I sent you. Page 2. Where do we
33 left.
Okay, great. So
Yeah.
where do we start? Where do we start? Where does our transition point
So
is?
we
Where's our
start
J
at
point?
Punked,
Well done. Then we go
Stoli,
where? Well done.
yeah, Minster.
Okay. Tell me about Minster. What altitude do we need to be at Minster?
So we have to be above flight level 240.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So 240, flight level 240 or below or above. Yeah. So
Above,
above.
above.
So yeah. Think of it about this way. If the line is underneath, it's above. If the line is over the top, it's below. Okay. So we need to be at 240 or above. So what is 240? What flight level is that?
It's 24,000 feet.
Well done. Now tell me about seats. Tell me all the information about seats.
So we have to be exactly at 280 knots
Well
above
done.
flight level 210.
Above at. So you need to be at 210 or above.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't tell you at. You have to be there. And I will tell you when you need to be at that altitude. Now, you know about the over the tops and you know about under the bottom. So how do we find that we need to be at a specific altitude? Look at this one.
Aha, it has 2 lines.
Well done. So
Yeah.
at Wachu, you need to be at 210 because it doesn't tell you like this. Look at it. Look at this speed. Let's have a look at this speed. Let's imagine it said 210. Uh, let's say it didn't have ats. So it would say you have to be at 210 or below at 7,000. But we don't. We just read the instructions here. So it's saying Wachu. It's basically spelling it out for you. So you have to be at Wachu at 210 knots or nothing below, nothing over the top at that speed at 7,000. And this is what we program into the FMC. So when we're descending via the VNav and LNav, it will basically have all this programmed up to a point that it will actually program you to based on the winds and everything that you'll get up to this waypoint at 210. Sometimes you might just have to, you might just have to do it manually, but we program it enough to have it at speed. So say, for example, we're going for Ponct and we're going for runway. We're going for runway 33 right. Left, sorry. So here, again, we look at the point. So from J Fun, track, so heading 170 to autumn. So at J Fund, so we look, Ponct, J Fund. Remember the J Fund? That's our SID. This is where our SID starts because you're transitioning from Ponct to J Fund. Okay, so this is a transition period that you're going down into a J Fund. Okay, and then it's telling us all the information to autumn. And what altitude do we need to be? This one's good. What altitude do we need to be at autumn?
So it's a fork. You can choose between 1100, 11,000 and 12,000.
Well done.
Yeah.
So you have to be either in between there. you can't go over 12,000, you can't go below 11,000. So he's then telling us to go to winter. Again, can't go over 10,000 or below 8,000. What speed, which is universal, what speed do we have to be at below 10,000?
Um, below 250, but here it says at 250.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
at 250.
yeah. Okay, got you.
Okay, so then it's telling us go winter, so on a heading 120, and where do we find the heading? There, it'll tell us
Yeah, 120.
Greece. Yeah, so then it's blah blah blah. So it's carrying on to Brody, track to bench, expect radar vectors. So what is a radar vectors?
It's ATC direction.
Yeah, so at this point, it's telling us to go down here to Griffey, and then be at 6,000 feet for here, and then ATC will basically, usually it will tell you to turn right heading, and then it will tell you into a final, which then that's going to be your ILS
Uh-huh.
there. And we find the ILS by going to APP for approach. We find the runway that we want, so 33 rights, and you have a bunch of them. ILS or lock, so your lock localizer. You have ILS runway, Cat 1, Cat 3, so Cat 2, so you get from Cat 1 to Cat 3. So these are, I'm actually going to get Brian to explain these Cat 1s and Cat 3s because these are a little bit more complicated. These are different types and different types of weathers that we use Cat 3. I believe Cat 3 is mainly for, I'm not sure actually, but because I think Cat 3s are mainly for um, different weathers, for different types of weather. So when it's more complex, when it's really, really bad weather, you use a Cat 3. And
So which one are we? Cat 2?
no, so we use just the ILS lock.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so on FMC is going to have one of these waypoints, and this is where it's going to start. At this point, that's where your ILS is going to start. So that's your localizer, your little beam.
Mm-hmm.
And what altitude do we need to be at Nemo?
1,500?
Well done. So it's
Okay.
going to give us a bunch of instructions. So this is just going to give you a bunch of instructions. So this is an approach table, and this is how it looks. And it's just going to give us, and as you get more familiarized and as you go through it, you'll understand. So this is missed APH. This is in case you missed an approach. So in case you missed an approach, climb to flight level 150. Sorry, 1500, then climb right and turn 3000. So again, if you land there, but we'll go this through another time, and we'll go through these procedures and understanding these, and because
Okay.
these are a little bit more complicated. Okay, so we now got this out of the way. What is a so explain to me what is a SID?
So SID stands for Standard Instrument Departure.
Well
It's
done.
a procedure to join an airway or waypoints.
Yeah.
It's different headings and speed and altitude to follow.
Yep. So it's got different restrictions.
Mm.
It's a procedure. So just say it's a procedure for a departure. So a departure procedure. That's what it is. You can't really explain. So it's basically you're in a car. You're following a specific route to a specific way to go in. What is a star?
The star. Well, it's the same, but for an arrival.
Yep. But what does it stand for?
Yeah, standard.
Without looking at Google. Otherwise, you're not learning.
The T I
If you
don't
don't know,
remember.
if you don't know, just tell me because
A is for arrival, but T I don't know.
okay. So try not to look on Google when I ask you these things, otherwise you're not going to learn with them. So it stands for Standard Terminal Arrival Route. So it's a route again, but it's for an arrival waypoint. So again, look at JFund. This is so already here. This has become less and less complicated for you because you already know. I've already explained what this is. and where you're gonna come in. Now, let's go into the aircraft, and I'm gonna join you, and we're gonna do a. So keep those in mind, okay? So keep those in mind, okay?
Okay.
So I'm gonna connect to you. Just, uh, can you send me the number?
Oh, sorry. Uh,
Oh, you have.
it's the
Okay.
same as before. Yeah.
So I'm gonna go slave. You go as master.
Okay.
Right. Cool. All right. So let's get this on. Let's get this show on the road. So we're now into cold and dark, and this is where you're really gonna need to, because we're gonna be here a while. Okay. Because yeah, this is gonna be quite a while. Okay. So do you remember yesterday what we need to turn on first?
Battery.
Okay. Go ahead. Okay. So let's imagine we don't have ground power. What do we do first?
So we need the APU.
Yep. But before we start the APU,
Yeah.
what do we do? What do we need to do before we start the APU?
Oh, the tests on the bottom. So
And how do we do the tests if you remember? If you don't, just tell me.
no, there's this one. Uh, and
So
yeah,
you
this
hold
side.
it. Yeah. So you hold it. So you do one, check, right, wait for the whole things to reload. And then what else?
Did you do this one?
Yep. Well done. So that's the extinguishers on the engine.
Uh huh.
And then what else do we do?
Did
There's
you
one more.
cargo test?
Yep. Well done. So that's sorted. Okay.
Cool.
Well done. Glad you remembered that. And now, how do we start the APU?
So does the APU start? But I think yesterday you turned on the fuel pump on aft one.
Yep, that's correct. So, yep. And then, how do
And
we start the APU?
hold it a few seconds on start.
So, to on,
Yeah.
yeah. And then to start and hold it 3 seconds. And then wait for that to grow.
Oh yeah, it goes to 8 and then it goes back to 4.
Well done. So, I want you to. So, after that's done that. So, how do we now know that we got. Have we got APU or haven't we? How do we find out?
Yeah, so it says in blue APU gen off bus.
Well done. Here, this
Yeah.
line. So how do we start the APU? How do we get it to work?
Is it these two?
Well done. Awesome. And now, how do we tell the ground crew that this aircraft is in operation?
Aha, with the secret strobe and steady. Ah no,
Yep.
steady.
Yep. Well done. Awesome. Okay. So you remembered that. So from this point onwards, I think I taught you. What I simply do is I get the overhead done as soon as quickly as possible. So I put the emergency exit lights to down. So I just click it down. Well done. So that's one out of the way. And then I start ahead and I get, the rest done. So we go over and then we go to the second overhead.
Yeah.
We press and hold the test flaps, this one, and hold it. See if the flaps are working. Well done. They're operational. And then if you remember yesterday, what do we do with these?
You said we had to align the IRS.
Yep, but what do we set them to?
I don't remember.
Nav. So
No.
we twist it until it says nav, and then nav. And that's the GPS. And what that's gonna do is that's gonna align so we can then get the screens on for that. Without that, those screens will be unoperational. They'll be black like that.
Okay.
So make sure you turn them on. And then from this point, we make sure the interface phone is off. We work our way through, and then we check the flight recorder. So we open. I usually put it on test, lights extinguish, flap, and then I test the max speed. I hold it, and then I do the number 2, max speed. The stall warnings won't work. That's fine. So that's done, right? So I no longer touch that. So I now, let's go over to the effort. So after that's done, I go to the FMC. I press clear. So go and press clear.
Um.
So CLR,
Oh yeah.
right? Now, the FMC. Let's look at the FMC and before we touch. So forget about all these buttons.
Mm-hmm.
Forget about it. Okay. Pretend that this never here. So the FMC. You have you have a line here, line here, line here, line here, line here, line here, blah blah blah, yeah?
Yeah.
So you have these little buttons on the side. How many do you have on each side?
6.
Right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah? So 1 line, 2 line, 3 line, 4 line, 5 line, 6 line, right? This is the best way to remember. So this is line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4, line 5, line 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, so etc. So if I told you line select 1, how would you do it?
I'd press the uppermost button on the left, huh?
Yeah, so line select 1. So you look at line select 1. So you're line selecting. So because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, up until 12, and then the line, remember? So there's a line select. So if I told you line select 2, what would you do?
I'd press A cars.
Whereas, well done. You got it. Right, that's the best way to remember.
Okay.
So line select 1.
Should I press it?
Yep, line select 1. Right, and this is going to give you an identification. So it's going to give you information about your aircraft.
Okay.
And all you need from here is the model. So model, make sure it's the same. So it's always going to be the engine type rating that it's currently operating. It goes all the way down to 22K. The nav data, this is the very most important thing. So don't worry about these, worry about this. Always check this before every flight and make sure that the last 2 numbers are corresponding with the latest ARAC. So for now, it will go 2004. The next one, next month, will be 2005 and so forward.
Okay.
And then it will tell you the month active, so 26th of March to the April 22nd. So this will be active until the 22nd of April of 2020. So after this date, it'll tell you again, it'll give you that error, nav out of date, because it means navigation out of date. So that means it's giving you need to update. So line select number 12. Well done. So it's going to give you, all you need is this position initialization. And this is where you're basically going to tell the aircraft, this is the airport that I'm at. I want you to put me onto the GPS. So you're basically telling the GPS, this is where I am. So it could depart from that point. So it's going to ask you a ref airport, which stands for reference airport. So that is the departure airport. So what airport are we at the moment?
CYYC.
So now we type in CYYZ. So now you know the letters. And we put it in there. And you can also be fancy and put in the gate. So we're at gate Charlie 30. So you can put gate Charlie 30. Well done. And then it's going to set, it says set our reposition. Now, whenever you see these little boxes, okay, that means you have to put position. You have to put information in, okay? It means you have to. It's imperative that you put in position because it's asking you. So it's telling you, okay, so you're at this airport, you're at this gate, set this position. So how do we find that position? We go next page. And it doesn't matter where you get it from. So you can either go from GPS left or GPS right. So we're not going to copy that by hand, are we? So the easiest way is to line select the L, this one, and it's going to copy straight onto there. You're going to go previous page, and you're going to line select that one. Boom. And on here,
Ooh, nice.
it's aligned. Boom. So click on route. Now it's time to put in our route. So this one's easy. So the origin airports. Usually it will copy from the previous one, but in this case it didn't copy, which is fine. So it's asking us for origin airport. CYYZ. Paste it on there. Destination, KBOS. So that's your destination airport. Boss. Our flight number, AAL, which is our flight number, 1229. Put it on there. Runway. Now, you can do this in two ways. If you're definitely sure that you're going to get that runway and it's confirmed by ATC, if there's any ATC alive, you can put 06 left.
Okay.
So let's do it this way. Let's do it this way. So put 06 left and put it on the runway. Now, what we need to do is we need to give it the SID. And where do we get the SID for the departure? What does the SID stand for?
Standard instrument departure.
Well done. So we got dep or arrival. So it's dep and arrival. Okay, so this is going to give you information. So CYYZ and Boston. Arrival for Boston, departure for CYYZ. If you need to, for example, need to turn back around, you do arrival for CYYZ.
Ah, I see.
But in most cases, you do a departure for CYYZ and arrival for Boston. So what we're going to do is we're going to go departure on CYYZ for our waypoint. And it's automatically put us on the 06 left, and it's going to show us. So if you look there, 1 out of 6, that means you're on that page 1 out of 6. If you go next page, 2 out of 6, and so forward, until 6. So if you look all the way there. Now, let's say for example, you press delete. Let's say we didn't put the runway. That's fine. We do the same procedure again. Departure and arrival, and departure. And now you can see that's not aligned automatically. See?
Oh, yeah,
so
yeah.
you can put it automatically or not. So what runway are we taking? So it's giving you a bunch of runways. So 06 left. And then how do we find out? Where do we go find out the information about our departure?
On the
What is our
flight
departure?
plan, no?
Well done. And what is our departure?
It's a
What
Capta
is
2.
our SID?
Capta 2.
So there you go. So you search for Capta 2. And then what it is asking you, is there a transition point? So there is 2. There is WASI and there is bumper. So if you don't know if there's a transition point, if it asks you for a transition point and one of these is in your flight plan, is it?
Yeah, it's bumper.
Then you click bumper. There we go. Then how do we get out of there? We click route.
Okay.
Right. Now, before we activate, let's look a second. Let's look down here. Remember how I told you how to zoom in and out? So we zoom out. So look at our departure there. So it's 06 left. It's asking us to depart from there, and it's asking us to go down here to mobile. Remember, again, why is this a straight line? Why is there no straight line down there? Why?
We're waiting for vectors.
Well done. So you're waiting on vectors. So you're going to depart runway 06 left, and then you're going to be on there. Now, we need to file in the rest of our flight plan. So if you zoom out, you've got mobile, Ricken, Kepter, bumper. And if you look on there, if you go back to CYYZ, and you look at Kepter, remember we looked at Kepter, SID, Kepter 2 for runway 6 left. Look what it says, mobile, Ricken, Kepter, bumper. Mobile, Ricken, Kepter, bumper. Awesome. So that's done. So technically that's done. No, no,
Cool.
because we need
No.
to file in the rest of the flight
Ah,
plan.
yeah.
So how do we get? So look at there where it says on your flight plan, it says 1 out of 2. Click next page.
Uh-huh.
Right. So this is where we're going to file in the rest of the flight plan. So at the moment it's saying Kepler 2, which is our SID, bumper to our transition. So
Yeah.
let's look at our flight plan.
The next
So
it
what does it
says
say?
DCT.
Ah, that stands for direct.
Ah.
Okay, so it's saying direct to Hank. So let's put Hank. So spell it how it says on there, Hank. Before you put it in, go on, put it another K.
And yeah.
Right, before you put it A, okay. So the best way that I can imagine is you're gonna think, well, Hank is gonna go here, right?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. It actually goes on the right-hand side.
How do you
And
know?
all waypoints, because I'm going to explain it to you now, all waypoints go on the right-hand side. All airways go on the left-hand side. So how do you know what is an airway, what is a waypoint? Because if you look at our flight plan, after Hank, it says Q935. So you're not going to look through every airway. So this is how it's done easy. Anything with a number goes on the left. Anything that hasn't got a number goes on the right.
Aha.
And that's how you distinguish between what's a waypoint, what's an airway.
Easy.
So where's Hank going to go?
On the right.
Right. Now, what is next?
Q935.
And what is that?
It's an airway.
Right. So put in 9Q. Put it
Was
on
it?
the left.
Q935. Wait. Q93.
No, you done it wrong there again. Why did that do that? Because you pressed delete. So press clear only.
Okay.
There you go.
And this goes on the
Now,
left.
on the left.
Yeah.
Now look what it says there.
It.
Oh, that's a bummer. Why does that say that on there?
Ah, we need to get out of the airway.
Well done. And where we're going to?
Honked.
Well done. So
Like this.
remember, you're going from. You
Kept
always
that
go
to.
from waypoint to airway, waypoint to airway. But sometimes, from there, for example, from there to there, there's no airway, so you're going direct to. That's why it's telling you there's no airway, so it's going direct to that waypoint. But from there to there is a airway, so you're going from Hank to Q35 to Pong.
Hmm.
Yeah, and this is where you're going to need Navigraph, because I'll actually tell you. So if we go here onto flights, new flights, Simbrief, we linked it up, CYYZ. And let's look here at our, so this is our departure, Rickham. Yeah, and look where we are, look. We're going to Bumper, and then from Bunker, we're going to Avon. But there's no Avon here, and I'm going to explain it why. And then we're going on this airway, Q35. Sounds familiar?
Hmm.
Q935. And you're going on that waypoint. You're going on that airwave, and you keep on going. And you keep on going. But, hang on. There's a couple of waypoints here that are not on the flight plan. That are not on there. Strange. How do we find that out? So first we activate, because we know that based on our flight plan, that's right. And then we click on the button execute, so every time that says on there. And then click legs. Ah, fascinating. So it's now going to give us the points. So we climb into 1000, we get in the vectors to mobile, to Rickham, to Kepter, to Bumper. So this is a little bit more in depth, to Bumper, and then to Hank. Oh, and there's the waypoints, Josie,
Ah,
and
yeah.
and see? So in between those waypoints, there's always other waypoints in between that. So this is why you would need Navigraph, because you need to double verify. But in most cases, 9 times out of 10, it will tell you you're right. So usually on here, we'll tell you the head, the altitudes and the speed. So speed's on the left, altitude's on the right, but there's nothing.
Mm.
So why? That's quite easy. So go ahead and click INF reference, initialization. So it's now going to ask us a bunch of numbers. Gross weight, zero fuel weight, reserves, cost index, trip. How the hell are you supposed to know that? That's quite easy. So first of all, for the gross weight, zero fuel weight, reserves, and cost index, where do we get that information? Let's go over to the tablet and click home.
Yeah.
Now go to fuel and weight balance. Now go to payload. Interesting. Now it's asking us for information about our payload, our zero fuel weight, our actual fuel. But where the hell do we get this information? How do we not know? Do we just guess? No, we don't guess. We actually go to our flight plan.
Okay.
We don't guess. And go to page 3. Go to page 3. Right, this page. Page 3. And look, if you look a little bit below, weights.
Hmm.
It's telling us 149 passengers, the cargo 05,000, payload 34,800, because it works in 34,800. Zero fuel weight is 126.7, and the maximum zero fuel weight we can take is 128.3. Our fuel is going to be 12,800. So if it's 13.0, what would it be?
13,000.
Well done.
Yeah.
And our takeoff weight.
You said pounds, right?
Yeah, so it'll be pounds. So
Okay.
13,000 pounds. So our payload, 13,000 or 34.8. So 34,800. Let's go. Click on the green line on the payload.
Oops.
But it's giving us a bunch of information that we fucking don't need. I don't need it. So click on payload total.
Yeah.
And put in 34,900. And click enter. And it distributes everything for us.
I see.
But however, if you wanted to go into more depth, you can do these individually. But if you don't know what the fuck you're doing, just don't press it.
Okay.
So it's now giving us a bunch of information. That's zero fuel weight in pounds, our takeoff weight. So our zero fuel weight is 129,943. So it'll be 129.9. And if we look at a zero fuel weight, it comes close-ish. 126.7 or 138.3. So we're actually quite in between. So we're actually pretty much bang on. And it'll give you a few distributions. I don't know how to read that, so I probably wouldn't. But you don't need that. So boom. So zero fuel weight, 125.9. So now that we set our weights, let's go over here on the gross weight. So this way, we don't need it. So we just line select this and it'll do it automatically for us.
Okay.
The first one. There you go, 134.8. And this is based on what you put here. Right? Our planned fuel, we don't need that.
So gross weight is zero fuel weight plus the fuel?
Yeah, and it's worked out a zero fuel weight for us. Look, 129.9.
All right. Yeah.
Look, let's look here. Let's look here on our payload.
Do we have enough fuel?
Of course we do.
Okay.
Wait, what is our... I forgot to mention one thing. So our fuel, good shout. Our fuel. Where do we get the information about our fuel?
Under fuel.
Well done. 12.8.
Yeah.
So what do? We
well, it's not enough, huh?
Fuel.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't 12. But we don't do 12.8. We do 12,800. Well done. Click enter.
Oops, sweet. Oh, here we go.
Awesome. And now we can do this. So again, because we updated it, we need to click on the line of gross weight because the gross weight has changed. There we go. I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, it's changed. So we just click it to confirm, right? Our reserves, we don't need no reserves, but I think usually I put one. You can put that in flight plan, in the flight plan when we're constructing it. So I just put 1.0 for 1,000. So
Okay.
it's asking us, yeah? Our cost index. Now, cost index, this is a bitch, right? It's easy to put in there, but it's a bitch. Okay. Cost index. What is cost index? So cost index is basically a number that ranges from 1 to 99, 999. So each airline will have a way that they travel and how fast they travel and at what altitudes they travel for fuel efficiency. This is how fuel efficient you want to go. So if I put 99 on there, that means that I'm going to be traveling at a flight level. So if we put in flight level, I don't even know what a flight level is. Let me find out.
340.
Yeah, so our flight level is 340, right? So we're not going to fly very efficient with a 99 because the higher the number, the faster you will go to your destination, but the more fuel you will burn. The lower the number, the slower you will go, and the less fuel you'll waste. But each aircraft or each airline will have a specific number for each aircraft, like for their fleet. So I know that Air Canada, their A319s, use 38. Some use 27. Some will use 45. And it's based on how fuel efficient you want to fly. Do you want to go fast and burn lots of fuel? Then go 99. But your fuel will go quick. I'll be surprised if you get there. But if you want to go fuel efficient, I always put roughly a number between 1 and 50.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter what number, but if you want to go the full length, okay, if you want to go the full length, you can always research based on the airline that you fly what their most cost index is. So our cruising altitude, what flight level are we going? So you can put in 340 and then there. You can put in 34,000 and then in there. You can put in flight level 34,000, or you can even put flight level 340. I usually put just 340, 34,000, or 290, 29,000. So what's our flight level today?
340.
Awesome. Ah, but this one is saying 386.
Yeah,
Why?
which one is this?
So why is that saying 386?
I don't know.
That's because that's the max cruising altitude that you can fly.
Of the Boeing.
No, based on your weight. So if you lose more weight, I think that number will go down. But I'm pretty sure that that's a max altitude for a Boeing ish. Anyway,
Okay.
so that's our flight plan. That's our flight level done. Now it's asking us for a cruise wind, an IC deviation, and outside temperature. How the hell do we get that? Easy. Let's get to our flight plan. Let's go to page. Let's go to page 4 and 5. So let's start at page 4. This is our flight plan. This is our route, but this is a little bit more in depth. You'll hardly use this, but this is a little bit more in depth route that you will get, and it will tell you basically information about the weather at the time that it took this, and information about the winds and where you're flying and what heading you're flying and the flight level that you'll be at for that level. So the only information you need from here for now is this. TOC. Remember what I told you about TOC yesterday? Do you know what that stands for?
You said it was top of climb,
And what does TD stand for?
top of descent.
And so what is the top of climb?
It's when you reach your maximum altitude.
No, when you reach your cruising altitude.
Cruising.
And what is a what's a TD then?
Top of descent?
Yeah, so that's to the point that you start descending. So in order to get a cruise wind, it's asking us for a cruise wind. So it's asking us when we get to cruise wind, what's our wind going to be? That's easy. So let's look at our flight plan. And look, we get to the cruise, which is top of climb. And look here, it says outside AOT, which stands for outside temperature, and it has wind. So wind, comp, and shear. So top of climb, wind, 090 into wind. So look at this one, 294 at 100. What do you think that means?
Is it
easy?
Is it heading in speed?
Yes, it's the heading and speed. So let's look. Wait a second, I'm gonna explain.
But is this real life or?
Yeah, it sort of works in a real life-ish. Yeah, it gets weather from real life.
Okay,
so
cool.
let's look here. So this is a compass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you've seen a compass before, yeah?
Yeah.
So it goes from 0 all the way 360. 0. Then it has, I think, 360. Yeah, I think it has 100. Then it has 200. I think. Then it has, I think, 300-ish. So compass has, you know what? I'm just gonna fuck it because I forgot how to compass. So let's look at this compass. Look at that. So it's got 0, 100, basically 180, 280, and then 360. And look, if we look at explain, that's basically how, when we move the heading, that's how it looks. So it's a compass and a heading. And look, if we look at our flight level, our flight plan, it says 294 at 100. So 294 is the direction. So that means that the wind is coming from 294. So the wind is coming at 294. So 294 is roughly about here. So the wind is coming from this direction to you. So this is you. The wind is coming from this direction. Yeah?
Okay.
Get it?
Yeah.
And then the 100, it means it's coming in. Fuck's sake. My bad. It's coming in at 100 knots of wind. So let's look here. So it's 294 coming in at 100 knots. So what do? We go back to X-plane. So we put 294. Go on.
294.
And then it's asking us for a bracket. So there's the bracket.
Like this?
And then at 100 knots, yeah. So you put 100. And then you put it into the wind. And then it's asking us for IC deviation. Now I don't know how IC deviation works properly. So I'll have to research that properly. But the IC deviation, we can get it from here as well. Outside temperature, IC deviation, TDV. Top at IC deviation. So again, top of climb, M2. So it says M2. M stands for minus. And then if it was a P, it would be plus. So -2. So how do we get that? So we put -2. Put it into the IC deviation. Then it works out your outside temperature roughly. So you look, it says minus 57 roughly for outside temperature at that point, minus 57. But here it says minus thingy. So what we do, we put minus 57 and we correct that. And then it's minus 57, and then the outside temperature along with that is that. So boom,
Okay.
transition altitude. I'll tell you that another time. But it has something to do with the altimeters and different times and different weathers. It's airport elevation, and every day, based on the weather, you will get different weather reports. We will go through that another time. But when you check here, when you switch this button, when you go up and down, look at that button.
Ah, it changes the altitude.
Yes, so based on different weathers, you will get a different altimeter and a different altitude. So what we do is we add it. So sometimes altimeter will be 3001, so we put 3001 on there. It might be 2992 on a cleany day, so 2992, which is the standard. That's the standard normal altitude. If you don't put this right, when you come into land, you'll never hit zero properly. It'll be wrongly configured. So let's go back to our FMC. Go N1 limit. Nearly finished. So this one's pretty easy. So we just line select that one, outside temperature, so we can click it. Boom. And then, okay, so this one is asking us for different 26K, 24K, 22K. So sometimes based on weather, this is based on weather, based on runway length, everything. For now, let's just put it on there, and I'll explain to you another time what that is properly. But we just put it to 26K, and then go to takeoff. Takeoff. There.
Ah.
And now it's going to ask what flaps we want on takeoff. So we put standard flaps 5, and I'll tell you more about flaps and CG. So we can just line select CG, and it'll do it for us. Cool. 26.5. And look, 26.5. So it works. And it's going to ask us to trim the aircraft. Remember the trim?
Should you trim it now?
No, you trim it once you push back. So
okay,
that's done. So then it's going to tell us our V1 speeds, our VR speeds, and V2 speeds. Now, without looking at my screen, tell me about V1, VR, and V2.
So this we did yesterday. VR is V rotate, is when you take off.
So what's V1?
V1 is you said the speed before which you can abort landing.
Yep.
And V2 I don't remember. But you have to take off.
Okay. So I was wrong, because I will correct you. I was wrong.
Okay.
So V1, the proper way to V1 is at the speed at no longer that you can abort a takeoff. So it's at the velocity. So it's at the speed that if you was to go past this, you can no longer return. Anything below that speed, you can stop at the runway safely. Anything after that speed, you have to take off. So it's at the speed that you have to take off in case of an emergency. In case there is an emergency, or in case or whatever you need to stop for whatever reason, that's at the safe speed. At the safe speed that you can no longer stop the airplane. VR is rotate, so that's at that point that you pull back gently on the joystick, and that at that point rotates. So that's the rotate. So that's basically it says on the name rotate. Yeah. So you put it. V2 is at the speed that, in case there is an emergency, you can safely generates lift on your aircraft so you can take off and go to a nice altitude, at which point the plane can still fly. So that's at V2. So that's it's at the point that you'll have enough speed on the aircraft that it can generate lift and take off safely. So that's V2. Okay, so what's V1?
It's maximum speed,
No, not maximum.
minimum speed, where you have to take off.
Yep. What's VR?
Is the rotate is where you lift, well, you take off.
Yeah, so VR is at the point that you rotate.
Yeah.
And what's V2?
V2 is where you have enough speed to safely climb to a safe altitude.
Yep. So it's actually a speed that you can safely climb at a climb rate of 200 feet per minute. Remember, we're talking about climb rate here,
Oh yeah,
200. So that's at that speed that you can climb at that rate safely in case there's an emergency. So V1 is at this velocity that in case there's an emergency, you can no longer come back. So that's at that speed that you can. It's basically at a speed that you generate that it's basically stopping is not an option anymore. VR is rotating, and V2 is at a speed that you can safely take off at roughly about 200 feet per minute in case there's an emergency. So that's the FMC done.
cool.
And you zoom out, and there's our waypoints. So how we can actually go through each waypoint individually by pressing legs. So go ahead and press legs.
On the FMC?
Yep. And look, it's generated a bunch of numbers next to it that one there before. So look, 205, 10,000 A. What do you think that means?
Heading and
No. So on the left is your speed. On your right is your altitude. So 205 knots at 1,000 A. At 1,000 or above. The vectors is asking us at 250 at 1,445. And then we're directing to mobile. And by the time we get there, it'll be 7,000 roughly, 7,332 feet at 250 knots. And then at 15,000, see how it changes? That means that it knows at 10,000 feet, you can go past it. But how do we make sure that the FMC is correctly programmed so at 10,000 feet, we don't go above over? So click on climb, CLB. So that's our flight, cruising avoidant. And look, target speed is 293, so we're in cruise. And look at the speed rest. So speed rest, it means that that speed, you want a particular speed to be at a particular altitude or below. So 250 is already there at 10,000 feet or below. So if it's not there, you can even put 240. We can even put 230 slash. And the reason we put the slash is because then the FMC knows. How do we control the altitude? You can even put 9,000. So in this case, we'd need to put that first and then 9,000.
I see.
Look. But say, for example, we've done a mistake and we can't, I don't know how we'll get, we click erase. Erase, everything goes back to Cool. Right, so there we are. So that's our flight plan complete. So by this point, I could, after I've done the M bit, after I've done this, and after I've aligned my IRS, what I do is I set the lights. So you got one light, 2 lights here, 3 lights here, and then on my side you have another light, and then, oh shit, my bad. So on this side, have a light, and then on light on this side. Now, for the autopilot really quickly. So we need to make sure that the 2 flight displays are on. So 1 and 2, flight directors. 2. What's our minimum climb altitude? So we can put it here now.
5,000.
Well done. So we can go back to thingy. And we want the plane to fly this line, so we want it to help us. So we can go LNAV and VNAV. VNAV.
Did
And we
you
always
change the
put...
heading?
Yeah, we put to runway heading. Well done. So we put the runway heading.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
0.
you're going the right way. So we know that roughly the runway heading is there. So we guess it's 057 roughly, yeah. And then, what do we put in the speed? We put in our, click init reference, we put in our V2 speed, which is 146. So when we take off, it's going to aim for this speed, but then VNAV is going to take over. That's going to go off, and then voila, on the next page, you're going to look, and it's going to be here, and it's going to take over. So our flight management computer. So technically, now we go overheads, and now we finish the overheads. So we set the lights first, so we should have done it right from the beginning. So we walk down, so your damper. So we do this, right, after, because we got carried away. So after you put in this, and here, and here, and then you put CY and destination, altitude, and runway, so, flight number, we then come to here. So just remember, we come here, we do this first, we don't do anything else, no runway, no nothing. We set our weights, yeah? Remember, write this down, because I'm going to test you. We do this, we set our weights, and then we come back here. So your damper on, and then we come here, this all stays normal. We come here, this all stays normal. We come here, and this stays normal. So our chimes and seatbelt signs can go to auto. And then, again, we go back up. Our window heats go on. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We leave the probe heats. So let me give you a better way to distinguish between these. So you see these lines?
Yeah.
Think of panel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we work from panel 1 down, panel 2, panel 3, panel 4, panel 5. So we work our way, we're now on panel 4, so we work down, so this all stays normal, right? And then we work on panel 5, so trim air comes on. We can be fancy and do the sort of how you want the cabin. So that's hot, that's cold. And how do we find out if it's hot or cold? We go back, main screen, and look, outside temperature today is plus 13 Celsius. So, I usually put 1 on A, 1 on U, 1 on C, 1 on U, roughly. And that sort of gives us, but you don't have to do this. And then the packs go to auto. Awesome. And then this is important, otherwise you'll get hypoxia on the plane, because it will happen. You'll black out. You need to put flight level, so our oxygen is set for when we get to it. Otherwise, your screen will go black because you run out of hypoxia. So 34,000. Right. So now you've officially sorted yourself for pushback and start. So
Nice.
did you get all of that?
Kind of. It was a lot of information. Huh?
It was, and that's why I'm now going to disconnect, and we're going to start again, and you're going to do it this time.
Okay. Can I take a short break?
Yeah, you can go for a break. Yeah, sure. I was going to ask you if you wanted a break.
Yeah. Give me 2 minutes.
So this next hour is or the next half hour is going to be about you setting up and you on pushback.